farmers are out on the streets right now protesting a new law that has recently been passed in the Dutch parliament that basically forces them to give up at least 30% of their livestock before 2030. So the Dutch government is expropriating these farmers' land under the guise of a new nitrogen law. They're saying that the Netherlands, our tiny small country that you can see on the map, has a dangerous nitrogen crisis that suddenly needs all of these actions and measures. And well, the farmers are the ones that are going to have to pay for it, and the state is taking their land. So obviously, if someone would come into your house and say, I'm going to take 30% of what you own and you have nothing to say about it, you'd be angry too. And that's exactly what these farmers are doing right now. They're showing that they are not having this. So they're out on the street, they're protesting, they have blocked the freeways, they have blocked distribution centers, and they're basically saying this is what is going to happen if you take our land away. We're going to have food shortages because already right now, the Dutch supermarkets, a lot of the shelves are empty.
Yeah, well, and here in North America too, inflation is high, especially for food. The idea of deliberately ending 30% of your livestock capacity seems insane. But I just want to get back to the one word that stuck in my ear. I've heard for years people talk about carbon dioxide and carbon emissions. And I happen to know that carbon is one of the most common elements. You can see it in the word carbohydrate or carburetor. We're made in large part from carbon trees. It's a building block of so much. And you can believe in the theory of man-made global warming or not, but that's carbon dioxide. Nitrogen, that's just another element in the periodic table. I think most of air is nitrogen, like more than 3/4 of what makes up air is nitrogen, and there's oxygen. Like, I've just never heard nitrogen, which is all around us, being called an enemy of anything. What are they worried about with nitrogen? It sounds laughable to me.
It is laughable, and that is what you should take away from this. It's not a real crisis. Obviously, nitrogen isn't a problem, especially not when you consider the fact that, well, the Netherlands, like I said, is such a small piece of land.
Yeah.
We have our neighboring countries, Belgium and Germany, that don't have to implement any of these measures, but the Dutch government is doing it. And the real reason, obviously, behind it is that the Dutch state wants the farmers' land. Because probably there are a couple of reasons. So the farmers, first of all, they're a group in society that are very self-reliant. They are basically ungovernable in that sense. You know, they own a lot of the Dutch land, and they produce agricultural products. They have livestock. They produce beef. And what's interesting to know is that the Dutch minister who has pushed this nitrogen law has a brother-in-law who is the owner of the Dutch online supermarket called Picnic. Guess who invested $600 million in Picnic last year? Right, Bill Gates, the man who wants you to eat fake meat.
And, you know, that's not just a conspiracy theory. I know, for example, that the head of the Netherlands, am I pronouncing his name right? Rutte? How do you pronounce the name of the leader of the Netherlands? He's a serious member of the World Economic Forum, too. What's his name?
Mark Rutte. Yes,
Rutte.
Mark Rutte is very, very deeply involved in the World Economic Forum. And, well, it's obvious that this law is a product, again, of these globalist institutions, because this needs to happen before 2030. Rings a bell, right? Agenda 2030, the Great Reset, World Economic Forum. It's very clear that this is a made-up crisis, which we've seen before with these organizations. That's the way they handle, that's the way they operate these things. They say, we have a crisis, and you are the ones that are going to have to solve this by giving up all of your rights.
Yeah.
So that's what's happening here. They're taking away these farmers' land. They're taking away property because they see a future for us in which we're completely dependent on the state. You eat bugs, and well, they own your land. You own nothing, and you'll be happy, is what they say to you. But these farmers are not happy, and I'm so proud that they're fighting this.
Yeah, well, you know, it's really reminiscent of the trucker rebellion we had here in Canada. And one of the reporters we've sent over there, Lincoln Jay, was really 23 days in a row he was reporting from our trucker rebellion. So now he's going to report on the farmer rebellion which is the name of our website, farmerrebellion.com. So it'll be interesting to see him contrasting how Canadians do it. Canada and the Netherlands are old friends. A lot of Canadian soldiers fought and actually died in the Netherlands to help liberate that country. There's been a deep tie between the two of us ever since. It's one of the reasons why there's so many tulips planted every year in front of our parliament buildings. It's a reminiscence of in fact, the Dutch Queen, if I'm not mistaken, was born in Ottawa, and the hospital room was declared Dutch soil. Am I getting my history right on that?
Yeah, absolutely. The Netherlands and Canada are very closely linked because of the reasons you mentioned, and we had a lot of reasons to be very thankful to the Canadians for liberating us in large parts of the Nazi regime. But our ties don't just limit themselves to history; they limit themselves in a very nasty way to the present day. And that is that you guys and us, we basically serve as these pilot countries for the rollout of this 2030 agenda for the World Economic Forum. And the way that Trudeau has handled the crisis there, and the way that he took away your rights, the rights of the unvaccinated, and the way that the protests have been handled by the truckers are something that we are looking at and saying, okay, we basically have the same type of treatment coming from our government. Mark Rutte and Trudeau are, closely, we've seen them before closely, in social settings being very friendly to each other. And while they're very similar in the way that they view the world, and they have the same globalist policies. And the Dutch farmers have really looked also towards the Canadian truckers. And you can see that in the interviews that they're giving right now. They're saying that. They're saying the way that the truckers have stood up against Trudeau is the way that we want to stand up against Mark Rutte. And they're being supported by Dutch truckers as well, Dutch fishermen. So you guys have set a great precedent there that we were very happy to learn from, and I hope that it has the same effect.
What you just saw was an excerpt from my nightly show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every weekday I do a monologue. Usually it's about half an hour. Then I interview an interesting guest, and then we read my hate mail or my fan mail, whichever is more fun. It's only available behind a paywall, though. That's how we pay our bills here at Rebel News. We don't take a dime from Justin Trudeau. But the good news is it's only $8 a month, about half the price of Netflix. And in addition to my nightly show, you also get weekly shows from 4 other friends here at Rebel News. So you're getting 36 shows a month just for $8. I think it's worth it. And even if you're not quite sure, do it anyways, because we rely on viewers like you to keep us free and independent. I promise you I'll never take a dime from Trudeau. Just go to rebelnewsplus.com and click subscribe. Thanks.